Greetings everyone, it's Kaz here with my final thoughts and review of Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was arguably my most anticipated game of this year, which is a big statement considering how many huge game releases there have been this year that I've been super psyched for. Mainly because I am such a big Star Wars fan, and I really enjoyed the 2015 Battlefront. Even though it undoubtedly had a lot of issues and a lot of problems with it, I still enjoyed my time with it. So, let's see how this collective effort from DICE, Criterion, and Motive turned out despite all of the negative press surrounding it. So I want to start off with the single player campaign in which you play as Iden Versio, the leader of Inferno Squad, which is a special forces squadron within the Galactic Empire. The story takes place during the events of and following Return of the Jedi, and it follows the downfall of the Empire. Now let's get the most obvious stuff out of the way first. The game is beautiful. As a matter of fact, it is so beautiful to the point of ridiculousness. You as the player truly feels a part of the Star Wars universe. This game once again shows just how insane EA's Frostbite engine can be with graphical fidelity. The tech on display here is undoubtedly incredibly impressive. However, it sucks for me to tell you that the campaign itself overall is incredibly lackluster and disappointing, from not only a gameplay but also a design and story standpoint, which is a huge shame considering I was looking forward to the campaign more than any other aspect of this title, but the end result is just disappointing. While the gunplay itself is solid, a lot of the mission design is just plain bad, with incredibly repetitive and boring objectives such as defending NPCs against wave after wave of enemies while they attempt to open a door. Yes, it's just as bad as it sounds. There's a particular section in the game that does this, and it is laughably bad. There are other times where the game will ask you to shoot down a number of enemy TIE fighters over and over again, and while it's cool when you do it the first time, after you've done it for the 186th time in the span of 5 minutes, you'll quickly be begging for it to just be over with and to get on to the next objective. There is another horrible instance in one of the final missions of the campaign where a certain quote-unquote boss has just a plain dumb amount of health, which within the context of the mission itself prior to that boss fight just made no sense. The campaign is riddled with unimaginative, brain-numbing design all the way through, which is made even more frustrating when you consider the fact it only took 4 hours to beat the campaign on normal difficulty, because a substantial amount of that time is taken up by complete gameplay filler. So really, if you take out all of that filler, the campaign's probably only 3 to 2.5 hours. It also blatantly shoehorns in iconic Star Wars characters such as Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, etc. into Iden Versio's story. These sections just do not feel right, nor are they fun at all. And I do feel as though the only reason they are in there is because EA executives made sure that they were included in the game as a selling point. I can see them saying right now on that bloody board of directors, we need to have Luke Skywalker in the game, but people love Han Solo, he needs to be in the game. It was also disappointing to see how many times in my 4 hours of playtime I encountered missions that were based on repurposed multiplayer maps. Unfortunately, the story itself cannot redeem these gameplay faults, and I also feel a lot of the marketing for the story was misleading as well in the trailers. EA promoted the fact that the game lets you see the events that unfold through a new Imperial perspective in the Star Wars universe that has never been experienced before, and without getting in depth with spoilers, it's just not really true. An incredibly predictable twist that takes place is executed in such an abrupt and poor manner. Again, I don't want to get into specifics, but it literally makes zero sense and it had me rolling my eyes. The marketing also implied that the game took place in the 30 years between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, which was a really cool concept. However, it actually takes place only in the year after Return of the Jedi, which is such a waste of potential. It is only the final mission, however, that is an exception to this, which I really enjoyed a lot. And again, with no spoilers, it was a sequence that actually added more than expected to the lore of the new films, and did a good job at getting me excited for the upcoming free campaign DLC. The performances and acting are also fantastic across the board, with incredibly well-directed cutscenes and witty writing to boot that shows that the creative minds behind the game, if nothing else, certainly understand what makes a Star Wars experience feel authentic. The campaign for Star Wars Battlefront 2 is not a fun time in almost any aspect that was only slightly saved by its final mission that did manage to leave me intrigued at what will come next. Now let's speak in a more positive manner, because the multiplayer is where this game really shines. And it truly is everything I wanted out of Battlefront in 2015. The gameplay is fantastic, the maps are fantastic, and the content available is certainly expansive, no doubt. They've really fixed almost every issue with the original game. Clone Wars content, space battles, more maps among other features are present, and each are glorious. Multiplayer's main game mode is Galactic Assault, which holds 40 players on huge expansive maps. Each of these maps have different objectives and a story, so to speak, that they follow, which is a very clever and unique way to add a lot of variety to the game, instead of players doing the same thing regardless of the map in that game mode, as is commonplace in multiplayer shooters. Vehicle and space combat is also much improved, as it feels as though this time around you have much greater control over your starfighters. This can be mainly credited to Criterion, which was the studio that worked exclusively on that aspect of the title. And it is those improved vehicle controls that makes me actually enjoy Starfighter Assault this time around. The newly introduced class-based gameplay is also a ton of fun, and adds a whole new layer of depth to the multiplayer that was lacking prior. All 4 classes, being Assault, Specialist, Officer and Heavy, each feel unique in identity and gameplay style, much in the vein of DICE's acclaimed Battlefield series. Hero gameplay, especially lightsaber wielding characters, have also been improved, as these characters are actually fun to play with now, unlike in the previous title, which, as is the case with Starfighter Assault, makes me really enjoy the newly improved Heroes vs Villains mode, which has also been overhauled, even if I am especially bad at playing with most of the heroes. Now I don't want to harp on it too long, but the elephant in the room with this game is the microtransactions and pay-to-win systems present, as we have all heard about the game's progression system ad nauseum. So to cut a long story short, this system is not good, and I would never defend it in its current state. It is convoluted and confusing, and closely resembles the predatory nature of free mobile games. However, I do feel that the entire pay-to-win argument surrounding the game has been blown out of proportion. Paying real money on loot crates is not only stupid in the first place, but if you choose to do it, the advantage you gain is far from significant. These buffs barely make a difference in matches at all, and there are systems in place to prevent low-level players from getting the best gear quickly. The game isn't so much pay to win as much as it is pay to save a few hours of time that other players had to play to get the same gear. It's really just pay to accelerate the process. It still sucks, however, that these loot crates, based on chance, are so heavily tied to progression in a competitive multiplayer shooter, and I hope that that is something that does not continue to become commonplace in our industry. And I am also glad that this system is seemingly getting a full overhaul, which will hopefully improve it for the better. I personally have my fingers crossed for trooper customization. The game also has an arcade mode that allows for basic offline play in the form of battle missions against AI. These use multiplayer maps and are incredibly basic. By no means is this mode a selling point, but what is there is just fine and okay. The mode does its job adequately and passes as offline fun. And it is also good that this mode supports split screen on consoles. All in all, Battlefront 2 is a game no gamer should purchase at all if you are searching for a robust single player and offline only Star Wars experience. It is by no means worth your time or money if that's what you're looking for. But if you want those huge multiplayer battles, to run around the absolutely gorgeous maps, to feel as though you are truly a part of a Star Wars battle, and to shoot some clankers or stormtroopers in the process much like me, you can't ask for better than Battlefront 2. Despite all of the microtransaction hate. I have been having an absolute blast with the multiplayer, and I will continue to put in many more hours over the coming months, and also with the free DLC support, hopefully the coming years as well. It simply just depends on what you are looking for in your Star Wars gaming experience that should determine whether or not this game is worth your money. So as always, if you've been playing Star Wars Battlefront 2, please leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check out some of my other content and subscribe if you like what you see. Thank you all very much for watching today's video. I'll see you all next time. Please do take care, and farewell.